The next session that I went to was what I've come to love about Inbound. This is a 12 o'clock session, an unconventional session. It's not a breakout session. It's not a panel. This was an interactive conversation between agency owners called Agency Talk, Unpacking What We've Learned at Inbound. This was hosted by Eric Pratt, the founding managing partner of Revenue River. They're over there in Colorado. They're doing really, really great things. I've mentioned them on a few episodes here in the past, so I'm sure you're aware. One of the biggest things that we saw in this conversation was really around HubSpot changing their tiered program. When HubSpot rolls out this new tier called Elite, they're encouraging us to sell more software. This is moving the goalposts. This is saying that the thing that you want to aspire for is this new tier called Elite. And to hit that, you need to sell a significant amount of HubSpot software. There's no incentive in this new tier for us to deliver more service, to do a better job for our clients. So it feels to us like it's a little counter to HubSpot saying solve for the customer, solve for the user. If we're only worried about selling more software and not incentivized to do a better job, I don't know how you would even measure this, but generate better results. Those are the things that we should be focused on, and really don't get too hung up with your tiered, rankings. That's less important. What is important is third-party review sources. Something that was mentioned here in this session and in a few different places was a platform called Clutch. This is a way that I think specific for marketers. Once somebody hires you, they follow up directly with that client and say, why did you choose this agency? What's different about them? And they get reviews in that capacity or over a period of time. How are they performing for you? And that seems to be like a really great generator, not a HubSpot tier. It's getting like those Yelp reviews, getting reviewed on Google, getting your Facebook reviews. So great piece of advice there. This was an open conversation, and the room, it actually wasn't as packed as I expected. I thought this would be one of the most celebrated sessions, only because Inbound used to have an agency track. And on that agency track, there would be session after sessions identified just for agency owners, just for partner agencies. That doesn't exist anymore. This is the only session that's really geared towards, are you an agency? Come and have a conversation. So we figured this place would be packed with tons and tons of people, but it's kind of a complaint that this conference has now been focused so much on the individual users and less on the partner community. It's okay. We still have partner day. We still have some things that they do just for us, but something that some people were voicing here. There were a couple key takeaways, a couple of really great pieces of advice. Specifically, they came from Eric Pratt. He did a great job running this, and I want to applaud him. The biggest thing that I want to leave people with from this session was the idea that we need to grow our talent. We need the people that work for us. We need to invest in them so that they can become experts. That's the way that we're going to grow. It's not by selling more software. It's by delivering better services. And you do that by training your people, investing in your people, helping them become experts at something. I saw a quote recently that was, a CEO saying, what if we invest in our people and they quit? And then the person in the cartoon is responding with, yeah, but what if we don't invest in our people and they stay? So the idea is let's grow our people and make them as good as possible. And what that's going to do for us, this is something that Mike Lieberman from Square 2 pointed out. What that does for us is it makes sure when we do have a client, when we are delivering services, we're not setting them up with the intention of transitioning to send them off on their own because they can do what we do. We should be so good at what we do that there's no way they could do this without us, that they can't part ways, that we can't just say, see, that's how you write a blog and you go do it. Or see, that's how you build a strategy. Now you go do it. We should be that good at our jobs. Excellent session. Absolutely loved it. Moving on, 115, went to a session called Elevating Rising Leaders and Empowering New Hires, How and Why to Create a Mentoring Program. This is important to me because we have a mentoring program at Mori Creative, but it doesn't have an official outline as far as rules are concerned. We just say this person helps this person helps this person, and that's where you move as you elevate through the company. But I wanted to sit on this. This was presented by Molly Gibson, who's a principal channel consultant at HubSpot, and Elisha Bender. She's the programming manager for customer success at a company called Mendix, but she actually used to work for HubSpot. So the two of them were talking about their mentoring programs that they built here at HubSpot. And what they discussed was the value of this isn't just for the new hire, somebody coming in who is afraid to ask questions because they don't want to look silly or like they don't understand our industry. Giving them a mentor gives them a safe space, somewhere they can go and be like, I didn't want to ask the manager or I didn't want to ask the owner, what is a CTA? You got a safe person you can bounce that off of. There's no reason to be afraid, with that person, with your mentor. But it's more valuable for other aspects of the company. By identifying mentors within your organization, you're setting people up to become managers. You're saying, hey, I want you to be a mentor. take on the responsibility of giving someone feedback and helping get them up and running. And those skills they develop and the confidence that they develop will help them then transition into higher roles within your organization. Mentor programs, official ones, also help with recruiting. When people are interviewing with your company or researching your company, if they're thinking about applying with you and they learn that you have a mentoring program, that's an incentive for them to come in. Oh, I see you value your people. I see you give them resources to make sure they're successful. So there's a few different places that this helps. At 3:45, I sat in on the future of branded content is podcasting. This is presented by Sam Balter. He's the guy from Weird Work, HubSpot's podcast, plus the producer of a few of HubSpot's podcasts like Skill Up and The Growth Show. This guy's awesome. I'm a big fan of Sam Balter's. He is very talented, very weird, but very cool. His session was awesome. We're actually echoing a lot of what he was mentioned in this session on our website, moricreative.com, where we talk about our podcasting services. But he's talking about why get into podcasting. Should you get into podcasting? And there was a lot of hunger for this. First, looking at the way that the world is digesting content has changed. Think about television. We're all shifting from broadcast television to on-demand television with Netflix and Hulu. Well, the same is happening with our audio. When you go to Spotify, you want to listen to what you want to listen to when you want to listen to it. And that's why podcasts have really started taking over. There's also this flywheel of sorts that's propelling the growth of podcasts. There are over 700,000 podcasts today out there. But did you know this? In 2018, on average, every day there are 575 new podcasts that are launched. 575 new podcasts are launched every day. That's incredible. So this is speeding up. There's a lot of attention here. There's a lot of people trying to get into this space. And people are getting in maybe prematurely without actually thinking about what they should be doing. So there are two questions, maybe three questions here that we want to talk about first. You got to identify, are you actually unique? Is there something that you can do differently? You can get guests. You're extremely funny. Like, what makes you, you? And the second question is, why should your listeners care? And then there's another one that I have in here that I really think that everyone should ask. It's really important is, should this be a limited run podcast or an ongoing podcast? If you plan on doing this for the rest of your life, fine. When you start publishing, if you have enough content, enough material, you've got the budget for it, you've got the time for it. But if you don't, if you think there's a good chance that 6 months from now, 6 weeks from now, you're going to run out of steam, maybe you should think about this by doing a mini series. When you release that first episode, make it 1 out of 12. This is episode 1 of our 12-part mini series. This way, when you do finish your 12th episode, you know that you're done, and people don't check into your podcast and see that the last time you published was May of 2018. Because if you didn't lay this out as a mini series and you stopped publishing at a certain point, it looks like your podcast failed. That wasn't something that was mentioned in this presentation, but it's kind of an observation of ours. So just a third piece of advice that I want to throw out there. When producing your podcast, you also need to make sure that you can get found. And I had asked a question of Sam towards the end just about discoverability. We know that search engines are great. With YouTube being owned by Google, YouTube's ability to transcribe video, that means search engines know what the substance of a video is. We're not far from a podcasting platform to be able to do what YouTube is doing with transcribing the content and knowing just by listening, just by uploading to that platform exactly what something is. Right now, Google is delivering podcasts as a result in the search engine results. Once the actual subject of, without us having to manually transcribe it, once the subject of a podcast is known, you're going to be delivered podcasts just as frequently as you're delivered blog posts. What Sam recommended when I asked the question about discoverability was, don't worry so much about that technology. What you need to look at, things like what happened after Serial was released. Discoverability happens when something is incredible. Think about how many new podcast listeners there were after Serial was released. Not just Serial, but everyone, the rising tide sort of thing. Making great content is really what's going to help you get found, and that is not easy. Of the 575 podcasts that are released every day, it's unlikely that even one is going to make it. So we got to make sure that we're focusing on producing great content. Acknowledging that most of those podcasts being released aren't useless. Just because you're not, going viral doesn't mean that it shouldn't be done. What we offer at More Creative is something that does the opposite, that we expect it not to get in front of a lot of people. But what it does is communicate your expertise, authority, and trustworthiness on your website or to your potential customers or to your potential employees. Producing a podcast that is well produced, sounds great, and demonstrates that you know what you're talking about, you have a good culture, you're a great place to work with, you're a great place to work for. That is just as important as going viral and being, the next Tim Ferriss or Mark Maron.